Yeah, welcome everyone to our seminar series. And today we again kind of link to Indonesia, or this time to Indonesia. Last time it was actually Papua. And it's, of course, a very great pleasure to have Ibu Aiyen Tjoa with us today. And I'll give you a brief overview of Ibu Aiyen's scientific career. So at the moment, Aiyen Tjoa is Associate Professor at the Agricultural Faculty of Tadulako University. This is in Palu in Sulawesi. She earned her bachelor's degree at the Agricultural Faculty of Jambi. So early on, kind of relationships to Jambi University, where we then established our project. And this, of course, kind of paved the way for also her long-term involvement in the project. Yeah, well, she then went on for her master's degree to Copenhagen, actually in Denmark, at the Royal Veterinary and Agricultural University. And then she went for her PhD in soil chemistry and plant nutrition to Hohenheim, so Germany. So she also earned, as many of our collaborators actually at not only Tadulako, but especially at IPB, they earned their PhD in Germany. And then she went on for a two-year postdoc at Wageningen University. So she has quite an experience in European countries. And this, of course, also was very important for her role actually in the project. Yeah, she was head of the Domestic and International Partnerships Office for 7 years at Tadulako, and today is also Vice Rector of Planning and Collaboration at Tadulako University. And well, Aiyen has been involved in many collaborative projects with quite a wide range of funding agency, including the Asian Development Bank, Federal Agricultural Organization, European Commission. So she has a very international network, and this again also was of eminent importance actually for the for our efforts project. Her main research field is soil-plant kind of interactions with a strong also soil focus. Yeah, just to highlight Aiyen's role in the project. She was with the project from the beginning and then took over a little bit kind of the burden of all this coordination in from the Indonesian side. But this, of course, was of absolute eminent importance. And as I already mentioned, all this network she has in Indonesia, but also all across basically the world was extremely helpful. And well, one can honestly say that without Ibu Aiyen, the project wouldn't have worked as it did. So Aiyen, you know, we are extremely grateful for you having us for so long and collaborating so kind of smoothly all the time. So this is a particular pleasure today having you with us and introducing a bit this Indonesian perspective of the project. Aiyen.
Thank you very much, Pak Stefan Soy, for the introduction. Good evening, everybody. And dear Pak Stefan again, dear Pak Stefan Soy, dear Barbara, Garvin, and perhaps Andrea is also here as team professors and members of the EFForTS, and as well as all the distinguished participants that attend these presentations. I'm delighted to have this opportunity, of course, to share with you the insights about the Indonesian research conditions, so that the presentation will entitle International Research Collaborations on Changing Rainforest Landscape in Indonesia. And this will not be a scientific presentation, but I still hope that this will enhance your knowledge and understanding about Indonesia and the research status in the research achievement of Indonesia. My presentation will structure in this way. I will introduce Indonesia higher education and research condition and the need for research collaboration from the Indonesian side and the impact, some of the example of the successful research impact, in particular EFForTS project, and one slide for the closing thoughts. Higher education in Indonesia is quite complex because that Indonesia have a lot of higher education bodies. The major ministry to manage higher education are divided in two ministries: Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology, or known as Kemendikbudristek, and another important ministry to manage Indonesia higher education is the Ministry of Religious Affairs. Under the Kemendikbudristek, there are two higher educations type. One is so-called public higher educations, is under Dikti, and another is the higher education for vocational institution, is managed under the vocational education sections. The vocational education, the higher education, has 927 numbers of higher education in Indonesia, and the Dikti have the most, a lot, 2,157 university or academies or institute in Indonesia. And these 2,157 are occupied by the private university. So among this is 2,081 private higher education institution. Indonesian usually names them as PTS. And the state university, for instance, Unja, IPB, and Tadulako University is the state university, belong to the Indonesia governments, are divided into three types. So the university are divided into three types based on the autonomous that given by the central governments, and it's the highest one, or the university with the highest autonomous, named as PTNBH in Indonesia, is a state higher education institution of incorporated legal. So this higher education is just like a company. In fact, IPB is among of these 21 PTNBH in Indonesia. And Tadulako University, Jambi University is in the second level of freedom in terms of financial and management system, or named as PTNBLU, so the State Higher Education Institution of Public Service Agency. So in between the freedom that we have for UNTAD and UNJA, and this the number is 31 of university in these classes, and the least freedom we call as PTN Satker is the State Higher Education Institution of Work Unit. So they are directly, all activity is under the ministry managed, or agree, all the agreement has to come from the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology. So UNTAD and UNJA before became the PTN BLU was before as the PTN Satker as well as IPB, but IPB sit in the PTN BH level is already like 15 years already. So they are among, IPB is among the first fifth institution, the fifth university that got the title as the most autonomous university in Indonesia. So in total, you see, we have 3,084 higher education institutions. So a quite complex system in Indonesia. And the major task of a university, as well as for the academician who work at the university, is quite different compared to many other countries. In Indonesia, teaching is occupied 60% of the work, the total volume of the work cannot be less. even when you are director or the vice director, so you still have to contribute the 60% of teaching, and research is occupy only 30% of your task at the university per semester or per year, and the community engagement services is 10% of the work. So we call this system as three dharma, the three pillar of the Indonesian higher education. This is applied throughout, whether this is a private university or state-owned university, all have the same task, these three major tasks. That's why in Indonesia, when there's a call of proposal, they will call proposal for research, but it's also a call for proposal for community services. And the journal as well, the journal is always divided into journal for research and journal for community services. This is also, but this community engagement or community services task is also have a positive impact actually. Most of the Indonesia, or not most, all the Indonesian university or academy or institute have a very good engagement or work together with local governments, with villagers, and with companies, in fact, because throughout every semester you have to do community services. So this also means that you usually having a very good investment on the relationship with the villagers and local governments. That's why when we would like to set up project, it's usually not a very difficult because that we already having investment on collaboration with the stakeholders. And because of the high numbers of higher education, but also research funding, the Indonesian research is actually, when compared to many other Southeast Asia or Asia, we are still less successful or having a less outcome. When we see this graphic that I summarize from 1996 to 2022 in country ranking, in research achievement for all subjects, Indonesia is at the moment ranked in the 39. So we are on the four ranking lower than the Singaporean. But when we came to the citations, that the Singapore cited papers by others is higher, 5 times higher than Indonesia. We having a kinds of nearly a kinds of 15 ranking better than the Philippines, but the Philippines publication are cited better than Indonesia, at least 3 times more. That's why at the moment, in the last 3 years, that the governments are put effort as well as the university that to have not only numbers of publication, but the quality of the publication. So they are, so throughout the country in the last 3 years are working very hard to improve the quality of the publications. And talking about the expenditure, the spending for research and development, that Indonesia compared to the Southeast Asia countries like Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, we are still very low because we only spend 0.28. It's already increased in the last 3 years, because before 3 years ago, we just spent 0.1% on research and development expenditure. So since 2022, it's already a huge increase, so that we spend 0.28% of the gross domestic product for the research and developments. Indonesia are having a better GDP per capita compared to Philippines and Vietnam, but spending on the research and development are lower than these two countries. Of course, like Singapore, Malaysia, and when we compare to Germany, and that the spending of for research and development expenditure, we still have to put a lot of effort for Indonesia to achieve better quality of publication as well as technology output that came from the research. And like many other countries, we also Indonesia also get a lot of inspiration to put more research in the collaboration form. So trying to increase international research collaborations. In 2012, Jonathan Adams already published about the rise of research network because in his publication in 1989, there is no country in the world share more than 1,000 papers with any other countries. But in 2011, taking UK and Germany as example, the partnership publication in 22 years ago is already achieved 10,000. This is a kind of in that time is a kind of 10% of the country total output is co-authorship with other countries. And in the US, it's pretty clear, like the research collaborations, joint publication is become exploded from year to year. And I think the CRC model that provided by the DFG is aligned actually with the global trend of the globalization in research partnership system. And for Indonesia, we see collaborative research is very important because usually collaborative research is unique because we can having sharing different natural resources, also culture, people culture, as well as it is a big opportunity to work together on global issue in the system of a collaborative research. And it can be across discipline and with many institutions in one goals. And usually research get more wider public perspective, so well now better by others party or by other stakeholders, and knowledge is better recognized with the and also transfer with under the collaborative research. And also we hope with partnership with the papers that produce or article produced can be cited more frequent, and also at the same time we can have a new regional network. But perhaps collaborative research is also have to be seen as a risk as well, perhaps. So usually in the discussion, we are talking about collaborative research. Perhaps we are going to the globalization of the research system. So just like the economic without border, so globalization of research is what we are doing at the moment already. Or with the collaborative research, perhaps it's also bring negative impact, like lesser sharpness of the objective of the research because of the party who work together or whom work together are trying to equal the equality. When we have partners with equal capacity, perhaps the sharpness, the objective are stay as it is. But when the partners are unequal, for instance, not sure how the University of Göttingen are seeing in these 12 years under effort with the Indonesian party, because whether this the better ranking or better achievement university are trying to balance in some factors with the partnership. So perhaps this has to be collaborative research can also bring perhaps some negative impact, not sure. But for the Indonesian, what we see, we usually having the positive impact of the collaborations. And talking about the Indonesian research focus, usually the focus was decided actually from the so-called like a global scale risk, so that the most severe risks on a global scale over the next 10 years concluded here in this the 10 risks: the climate action failure, the extreme weather, biodiversity loss, social cohesion erosion, livelihood crisis, infectious diseases, human environmental damage, natural resources crisis, and debt crisis, and geo-economic confrontations. And from these 10 global scale risks, Indonesia put the research focus throughout the country on these 5 focuses. One is the green economy, so that the research usually concentrate on sustainability, climate change, renewable energy, new energy, and on the tourism, like green tourism, also on the management, better management system, and the blue economy on maritime, marine and fisheries, technology and medical devices. Indonesia put a lot of strong concentration on this technology and medical devices because we like to encourage health and medical equipment independence. So we are trying to produce our own needs in medical devices. There are some improvement, but still a lot of uh, research has to be done, achieved, and has to be having a more collaboration on this topic. And digital technology, and because this, like many other countries, like to advance the nation in digital technology. So these 5 major research focuses. And international collaborations, we have long-term collaboration, bilateral, Indonesia and the UK, Indonesia and the Netherlands through the NWO, and with UK, all the projects are funded by Newton Fund and Indonesia sharing funding, and with the France. This is the 3 major bilateral long-term that we have: Newton Fund, NWO, and PhD, the program Hubert Kuren, PhD Nusantara. So in with these 3 countries, the funding is like 50-50 between the 2 country bilateral. But we're also having a long-term multilateral collaboration, so-called E-Asia program, the joint research program throughout many Asia countries. And also another long-term one is the Southeast Asia Europe joint funding scheme for research and innovation. This is consists of many countries sharing funding in one call. And another type of collaborations that we have in Indonesia, that usually there's a public call for Indonesian University and Research Center, is for instance from the IDRC, Canada, and the BMGF, the Bill Melinda Foundation, Bill Melinda Gates Foundations, and the substrates and NADO is from with the Japan countries. It's also a long term. The E-Asia that I already mentioned before, and with China, and there's one with Australia, like having a major attractive, very attractive to Indonesia university members for the academician. Is on the topic on climate change. Usually the call of proposal will be followed by at least 600, and the guarantees selected proposal is usually between 35 to 38 per year only. And like the impact of the partnership, for instance, that what has been done by the effort throughout the 12 years. The effort publication has been often be support the Indonesia so-called Net Sing program, or the Indonesian Folu, so the forest and other land uses net of sink on emission that we have to achieve in 2030. So this all is based on the Paris agreements that the national determined contribution that the first has been updated by the Indonesia, so that the Indonesia have the NDC roadmap, of course, that already in 2019, but last year in Indonesia submitted in September, so-called the enhance of the nationally determined contribution on the to reduce the emission. So a few of the effort study, not only few, quite many, it has been also be how to say that, to support the possibility of to improve the net of sink achievement in Indonesia. So the difference between the updated NDC and the enhanced NDC. So Indonesia in the updated NDC, how to a kinds of like promise to reduce the emission without international support. So only nationally determined, so is 29%. But with the international support, whether it is on research funding or some technical consultant for Indonesia, we predict to reduce 41%. And in the enhanced NDC submitted last year, Indonesia is increasing the how to say that, the countermeasures, so that we will reduce 31.89%, so increasing 2.8 or 2.9% domestically with the domestic capacity to reduce the emissions, and with international contribution, we will reduce from 41 in the updated NDC, and in the enhanced NDC now is 43.20. And the forest ministry, the environmental and forestry ministry, of course, having a very heavy job, heavy responsibility, because the forestry and the other land uses are accounted for 60% of the share to reduce the emission. So the largest share in the goal to reduce greenhouse gas emission belong to the forestry sector. So, and effort publications and results can, how to say that, be the background. So for many discussion, as well as to support the technical decision in the Ministry of Environmental and Forestry in Indonesia. And the mitigation action, so there are usually also some call for research. So the follow net sinks program, usually the forest and other land uses net of sink 2030, usually the concentrate on decreasing of deforestation in mineral rich lands and peat and mangrove, and decreasing in the degradation in mineral rich lands and peat and mangrove, advancing in the development of plantation forests and sustainable forest management, like the rehabilitation through rotational method and undertaking non-rotational rehabilitation. So there are two different methods in rehabilitations, and pit restoration and enhancing pit water management, restoring mangrove, and implementing afforestation in after mine site. And one important call usually on upholding biodiversity conservation and promoting social forestry initiatives and development and consolidation of the customary forest, because there are still many forest people, ecosystem, and also in Indonesia, the so-called adat, local customary, on the forest system are still on how implementing by many tribes actually. Ecosystem green open spaces and riparian zones is also one important mitigation action, and controlling and law enforcement to support the protection and security of forested area. This is the 15 mitigation action that usually in the follow programs. And the most collaborative nation with Indonesia, Germany ranked in number 8. First still United States. I think never change this ranking. United States are still the most collaborative nation with Indonesia, and Japan and China is improving. So now it's the number 5th, became the number 5th nation, the most collaborative nation with Indonesia. So that we can see it's only 2 Asia country, 1 China and 1 Taiwan. But Taiwan are not seen as a country for, in fact, right? So, and in the collaboration system that we implementing, in particular under the state university, that we are always be how to say that be suggested like to avoid the asymmetry partnership. So to avoid this, we have been remind that to have since beginning of the partnership to have a well-defined and clear agreement, and parties have to have a good leadership and has to have good responsive and active in the partnership, and also to have a research management skill. And the Indonesian government is always mentioned that the institution or the parties have to have institutional support system. So not only best how to say that from taking from the partnership from the partners, and the Indonesian is only a kinds of in-kind contribution, but this has been 5 years ago, I think. But nowadays that the agreement is like the Indonesian also have to share funding, and the asymmetry to avoiding the asymmetry, because that many partnership perhaps in the beginning have the incompatible procedures between institutions. This can cause asymmetry partnership, and perhaps the research agenda determines only by one party, and lack of respect for different knowledge and concept in partnership and in impact, unequal access to data and funding, or the IP holder is an inequitable authorship. This can cause asymmetry, as well as funding models are not attuned to reality, conflicting in incentive and time frames perhaps, and sometimes the geographical difference, culture, experience, capacity is different. This also can cause asymmetry partnership and inappropriate assumption about capacity building needs and exclusion of partners from decision making. And it has been very often discussed as well in Indonesia, because there's how to say that people are sit in the university because it's academic collaborations, and many expected like when it is among academicians, it is expected that there will be fewer obstacles, and many partnerships cannot having enough outcomes or not achieve the partnership objective because of the asymmetry partnership. So means that even among academicians, that the well-defined and clear agreement, responsive and active, and having good research management, as well as sharing institutional support, having a good institutional support system are important. And we have been throughout these 5 years in particular, that to shift the paradigm, the paradigm in collaboration from win to loss, win and loss to win-win possibility with the partnership system, and from competition to cooperative and consensus in one correct view to multiple legitimate views and one right answer to multiple potential solution under the partnership, and carry out isolated authority and direction to more better to the solving shared problem, and from reactive action to proactive action, and avoiding uncertainty to managing adaptively, and fragmentation, integration, and from them, so their problem to our problem, or to us problem. So this collaboration paradigm shift has to be implemented by the Indonesian parties. So I think we are in the correct direction in these 5 years in Indonesia in terms for international research collaboration in particular. And effort actually is very successful to practice on this parallelism shift, because in the effort we implement, and so with Pak Stefan Soy and the groups and the joint management board agree to implement to have the joint management system, the joint management board and publication board as well, and the data management board, as well as the Nagoya Protocol, because what we can see is like what we have, the robust management system was essential for cultivating a strong partnership and attaining optimal research outcome. So I believe like the successful of the effort in Jambi for 12 years, not merely because of the person, but because we also having a good management system between the parties. So between the Indonesia Consortium, Jambi University, IPB, Tadulako University, and with the University of Göttingen. And throughout the 12 years that I can conclude in this slide, what the benefit and the benefit sharing that gained by the Indonesian parties, the non-monetary benefits, then the monetary benefit, the non-monetary benefit, and the monetary benefits can be earned by individual, by institutional, but it's also by social, so by community, so that the non-monetary like training, technology transfer, infrastructure support for the Indonesia, but the infrastructure support can be institutional for the non-monetary, but it also can bring social benefit as well. And for the monetary benefits, we can see from the socio-economic benefit, for instance, employment throughout the 12 years, the socio-economic benefit that we get the infrastructure, the socio-economic benefit also for long term from the knowledge that will produce, perhaps it will bring conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. So quite many numbers, short-term and long-term benefit sharing that we earn from the 12 years of partnership with University of Göttingen under the DFG funding. And one of the impact, this is the proof actually, like the 12-year partnership bring significant contribution to the scientific achievement of the partners. I took here Jambi University because the effort hosted by the Jambi University. So taking Jambi University as example. So in the Scopus numbers, so the publications number indexed by Scopus, when we start the partnership in 2012, Jambi University recorded only having 17 Scopus, but we can see the numbers are increasing, yeah, so significantly, yeah, huge volume of increasing of numbers of index Scopus publication throughout the partnership. So surely this is not 100% from the effort, but efforts are play a major or key role in this increasing of number of publications. In the Google Scholar is the same. The documents are increasing significantly increased under these 12 years together with the efforts. And when we see with whom the publication is, so that the partner institution, we can clearly see that Jambi University affiliation publication is with the job August Universität Göttingen. So it's recorded having 83 documents, with IPB University recorded having a 72 publications. So as this, the two is the most collaborative affiliations university with the Jambi University. And this will be my last slide about the talking about the collaborative research. So the closing thoughts is that from the 12 years, we believe like to maintain the productivity of a collaboration. So after the 12 years and now entering to another phase of partnership, maintaining the productivity of collaboration is another issue. So looking for matching collaborators is difficult, as finding for common ground and funding. So we are very happy, in particular for Tadulako University, that we stay so long with the IPB University, because we believe like to find a matching collaborator is not easy. That's why we are quite selective, and the partners like having good matching in vision and mission. So we usually put the partnership as an important partners in the Tadulako University, as well as with University of Göttingen. University in Indonesia having like Tadulako itself having a lot of partnership with the university. So throughout South Asia, Asia, and Europe, Australians, US, but having a productive one and going through long in research partnership with a good outcomes and impact. It's not many actually. So a lot of partnership need a lot of put a lot of effort on time as well as funding, so that the strategy nowadays that we will only concentrate on some matching collaborators instead to increasing numbers of collaborators, because need time, effort, a lot of effort to maintaining the collaborations. And we believe as well, like collaboration is actually the easy way to transform an institution, to have better culture, to better management system. Yeah, so also on one hand, also that the institution invest also better in collaboration. So the transforming of the corporate or transforming of the university are better under international, with the international influence, with the international partnership. And partnership, of course, allow researchers from different institutions to access knowledge, equipment, and expertise. So not only the parties that we collaborate together, and we believe it's always better to stay two or more together than stand alone. So this is like the SDGs number 17, like partnership is one of the important in the SDGs. So that the Indonesian party as well believe this is instead of to compete, it's better to work together. So with true partnership, we can offer access to a unit breadth of knowledge and experience along with high skill research expertise. So for instance, we can get know Pak Stefan Soy, Pak Alexander Knoll, as well as like, for instance, a former time with Pak Thea Chanke, so that we have experience and chance to work together with a high skill research expertise. And now in Indonesia, for many years ago, partnership is actually seen as an extra job. So it's a kind like, okay, it's there, it's fine, not there, it's also okay. But nowadays, we believe like partnerships is that we cannot do without the collaboration, so that we are increasing in Indonesia on the needs of partnership, in particular in research and education. So thank you very much. Vielen Dank für eure Aufmerksamkeit. Terima kasih atas perhatiannya. Thank you. I give back to Pak Stefan Soy. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ibu Aiyen, for this kind of insight from a general perspective in Indonesia on international collaborations, and also showing, in a way, how complex it is on the one side, but also how important and basically essential it is for also the future of the country, and basically for science on a global scale. Thanks, especially because, just to mention that again, it's beyond the middle of the night for you, and you stay with us. So hope you do not fall asleep in the next, whatever, 20, 30 minutes when we ask more questions. So please, anybody wants to comment or have questions, certainly a bit different. So this is more basically question about infrastructure collaboration, but also something, of course, which is of eminent importance, and you may have kind of questions about that. Unique chance to talk with experts from the Indonesian side. Maybe I get it started. So, Aiyen, I mean, you, as you also showed, I mean, you are actually with this development of collaboration between Germany and Indonesia for the last 20 years. Maybe you can kind of give us your perspective. How did it kind of develop, from the early times in Storma to the kind of late times in EFForTS?
Thank you, Stefan. So that, yeah, it is because I stay in the Storma time until today. The major difference, I think, that what we adapted in EFForTS is that we have more openness, as well as better management system. So, and with openness in the management system, as well as the completed technical guidance that we have in EFForTS is much better, or better than before. That's why throughout these 12 years, I can conclude actually that we actually have a very less problem on management system, in particular funding and financial management system, because I believe, because I'm in partnership system or playing a key role for many, many years, and in many other projects, financial is the most important as well. One of the major that can cause, how to say that, dispute between partners. And I think EFForTS are very excellent in this. So I will say that the major differences is, like, from time to time we have better openness, and as well as the completed technical assistance in the project. I mean that document, like, to support, like we have more like with Barbara system as well. So having all these guidelines be there. So this is very helpful to everybody as well. But and then also, although there are many needs of permit in Indonesia, but actually also from time to time there's some, let's say, more clear on the direction, and also the management system, a kind of application system as well. So the regulation is actually from time to time, I would say, is more transparent and more easy. So there are some achievement from the Indonesian party, so that we did not need to give money in many or to get paper. So this is a quite good improvement from the Indonesian side. But in terms of country to country collaboration, I mean that Indonesia and the German system, actually in total there are not many changing, I will say. So the system are actually stay quite the same in comparison to the system that we have Indonesia with the UK and Indonesia with the Netherlands. They are, and also with the France, so it's more adaptive to the new days administration system as well. So this is the two, this is the major difference.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question, and you have been referring to, of course, the success of the collaborative projects between Indonesia and other countries in Europe. And of course, we also experience the success here and we see the success that the projects go to. But I have the question on what kind of metrics would you also use when you evaluate this kind of collaborations? What kind of other metrics do you use on evaluating the success, other than, for example, what you refer to, such as the citations, journals that have been published and cited, which are the results of collaborative projects? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. This is a critical question. Of course, the metrics for Indonesian party, usually we are using two different metrics. One is the quantity, but the other is also the quality. However, actually not really necessary to have equal numbers. I mean that when we are in the partnership, like in the Göttingen publish more numbers than the Indonesian, we are not seeing this is as unsuccessful as well. So what I want to say is like, even we are using quantity to determine the successful of the partnership, but it's not head to head. The system is, because we also compare what has been shared by the Indonesia in the project as well. So, and from the quality, we are also not calculating from the financial that we receive, but it's more on the successful of the Indonesian party to achieve better level of their career. So for instance, many numbers of IPB as well as Jambi University achieve better level of the job or became professors as well throughout these 12 years. Yeah, so that the metrics that we use, so in these two, quantity, quality, but quantity has to be put in mind. This cannot be head to head. So like the numbers of publication in by the team of the Göttingen compare directly to the numbers of that achieved by the Indonesia. So even we achieve less numbers cannot be seen like the Indonesians are having less benefit. So, but this has to be put together with the participation from the Indonesian side, whether sharing in science or sharing in time or sharing as well in financial. So two major system that we use to measure the successful to evaluating. And of course, not only publication, number of students involved as well, numbers of successful alumni from the CRC in their job position, because like we have quite many numbers of Indonesian, like Sarul now having the positions in Brawijaya, or also Afik, for instance, in the Unsud, in the Purwokerto. So many of the Indonesia alumni like having a better position nowadays in the university or research center. So this is also one of the benefit, the metrics that we use to measure the successful of the partnership.
Well, maybe I'd like to add a little bit. I mean, you may also comment on that. When some metrics we always used for documenting that this is kind of a successful win-win endeavor was basically the number of students, master students, bachelor students, also from the Indonesian side, who graduated with us, and especially, of course, the PhD students who from the Indonesian side, who graduated in the program. And this is also related, actually, I mean, to citations. But what we always also liked, we are kind of proud of to stress, is that there is a really high number of first author publications. From the Indonesian side, and this is basically, it's reflecting also the PhD students who graduated or are about to graduate in the program, and they basically wrote the papers. And this, of course, increases the capacity for science in future, and this is what we also aimed at very much.
Yeah, that's true. Like Saro and Afid, our alumni now, and also another one is from I think quite many already back to Indonesia and now in a good career position already.
Hello, thank you so much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it, and to learn more about international collaborations with Indonesia. Is there? Oh, it's still okay. Look frozen for a second. A question about the metrics used. I guess the major goal is that of the research is that we can influence decision makers or influence grassroots movements to implement changes into how we're doing things to either protect the environment or to prevent some of the problems that you mentioned earlier in your presentation. So I'm wondering, what major policy changes or changes in grassroots movements have you seen based on the outputs of these research projects? And then part of that question is related to that this is an international collaboration, and so part of the people working on the project are basically foreigners or outsiders, and how is the research received by policymakers and by the public? Like, is it received well? Is it not received well because some of the research outputs can be contradictory or go against some of the current policy? So how is that managed within the project? Is it a source of extra conflict because of, people want the research to be well received, but at the same time, we want to, produce quality research that is true and valid, but also hopefully create some sort of change based on our research. So that was a big question. But how, in your experience, and also what you've seen from your colleagues in your country, like what, how can these collaborations be structured in the best way possible to have the highest outcome possible in the kind of context of very contentious research outcomes potentially, especially related to deforestation and oil palm and all these topics that are very contentious right now globally and in Indonesia.
Thank you. Sure. Because the effort project are concentrated on a very sensitive issue because we are working on oil palm, and Indonesia is the largest producers still until today, and there's a kind of 16 million land like planted with oil palm, and the impact of the effort on the policy, the adoptions, for instance, from the enrichment plantation system that we also having few publication on that. This has been reviewed, and there is one program by the governments on oil palm under the forest boundary, and because they cannot, how to say that, remove this area, I think a kind of 2 million hectares. So they are using the system of the effort, the BAA, the enrichment. So it has to be enriched with the trees, with the hope that after the one cycle, that only tree will be there, because they cannot remove directly the oil palm, because this will be affect the economic of the household of the people nearby the villages. So they are planted on the forestry, on the forest land actually. So whether this is a margin area or is already be in the middle of the forest. So that the ministry is at the moment working hard to remove these 2 million oil palm from the forestry region, but they have a plan like 25 years. So it has to be mixed with the trees. So this idea, it has been reviewed from the effort as well. So we participate in that program. Is led by the Gajah Mada University. This program, IPB is also in that program as well, as a collaborator, a kind of consultant, playing as a consultant for the ministry. And more actually, we are often be invited to attend ministry meeting on, in particular, the ministries of foreign affairs, as well as the Ministry of Environmental and Forestry, and ministries of trade. So but as a coordinatress, I usually not very keen to play major role in that kind of meeting. So we usually addressing them to study from our publication, so that we are not involved directly to direct the policy decision, because this to avoid mixed goals in the management system. So, but as scientists, so not taking the flag of effort, many of our counterparts are involved in that work with the ministry, working hand by hand. So from the result of the research, and then regarding whether publication that not in line with the government predictions of what the governments think about, whether this will be a great problem. So far in these 12 years, there is some conflict with us, of course, so some dispute, but not harming anything. We usually, that's why from these 12 years, I believe the Indonesian governments are changing a lot in understandings of science, the need of science and science-based policy. So not merely only on the, how to say that, this on that decision and strategy to be respected in the international level, but it's also include science policy. So much better nowadays. We have get few dispute for few publications, in particular relate to emission water. These two topic on oil palm, but none of the publication are harming the existence of the effort in Indonesia. So I think this is quite good, a good achievement as well, because the channel is quite clear nowadays. So that is channel for complaint, the channel to ask for assistance, and the channel to get how to say that, to get defense is quite clear in Indonesia nowadays. Yeah, this is a good achievement on what and how the Indonesian scientists in these 12 years, that the academicians, I think many learns quite hard. Not 100% that we achieve what I think like what has been decided or has been reached by, in particular, by the University of Göttingen as our major partners. But I think in the Indonesian side, many of the counterparts also increasing the contribution from time to time, and they're also playing a key role in supervision of Indonesian students and the young researchers under the efforts, and also quite many numbers of new approaches to have a young scientist. Like we also have young scientist selection and whatever, and also they are playing a lot of roles in with the governments in the police as a consultant or policy to develop the policy for the governments of sharing. In particular, in the topic of the NDC and emissions, like Pak Bowo is also involved in the ministry as a until now as a staff, and he usually invited the IPB counterpart members for getting more insight of some of the research. So, thank you.
More questions? Maybe one thing again from kind of my side. I mean, we struggled a lot with kind of legal regulations, and as mentioned, I mean, without someone really knowing all the details of the country in that respect, it's really very tricky to establish a project like this. On the other side, I mean, you were stressing that collaboration, international collaboration is something which is kind of essential, and we really need to develop and foster this direction. What is your perspective? How is this kind of developing in Indonesia?
Yeah, this year is the critical year.
I know.
Yeah, this year is the critical year actually. That what we hope. So from these 15 years on working on administrative issue, in particular for permit, export and import, we can see actually a lot of good achievement. For instance, it is very easy to get import already, and we do not need to pay tax, and numbers of documents is reduced. And since these last 2 years, with the BRIN on research permit, is actually cut off many documents, and it's quite easy actually. And we do hope, like because we will have a new government soon in this year, that the achievement, because some area is still lacking of transformations in services. For instance, in the Ministry of Forestry for sample export, this is the most critical and not yet improved enough. And this topic can be, how to say, be more concentrated by the government. So under the Ministry of Education and with the BRIN, I think it is already in a quite optimal achievement nowadays. So we have a pretty less burden in the last 2 years. Only for sample export is still a problem. But I'm very happy actually with this import system in particular, except for the soil. But now they're changing as well, changing the system just recently. Yeah, but the import of the equipment is when it's compared to the storma time, and when it's compared to the first phase of the project, is is in the second and the third. The third in particular is when we're doing the landscape assessment, because it's already under the new regulation, and it was a very relaxed regulation, and we did not need to pay any tax, and it's quite easy to get out all the equipment. So I think a good promising, but let's see how the new government will be. This is a bit hot issue at the moment in Indonesia. President election.
Any more questions? Well, it seems not to be the case. Then, Aiyen, thanks tons for staying with us. And now, hopefully, you immediately fall asleep and have some relaxing sleep until as possible, I would say. So, yeah, thanks a lot. And we see you again soon. Yeah. And,
thank you, everybody. Thank you, Pastor
See
Stefan.
you.
In next 5 hours, I have to go to office because now it's already nearly 2:30 in the morning here. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for the participant as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I will leave. Thank you, Garvin. Thank you, Barbara.